Folks, what you're about to witness is fireworks, rated R content, no personal attacks, but a very animated trio of individuals who love their football team in the New York Football Giants. Folks, if you want to comment on this segment, feel free to do so. We're going to waste no more time. So obviously the Giants lose their final game of the regular season, finishing 4-13. They did.
Man.
Ending the season on a 6-game losing streak, a 22-7 loss to Kyle's Washington football team. Not really, but we like to throw that joke in there. Jake Fromm started the game. He did throw a touchdown pass to Darius Slayton. It was the first time a Giants wide receiver scored a touchdown in over 2 months. So congratulations to the Giants on accomplishing that advanced calculus type of feat. Also, following the game, Dave Gettleman announced that he will retire on Monday morning after 4 seasons as GM, a 19-46 record as the search for a new general manager begins. James, I'm going to start with you here. Thoughts on Dave Gettleman as general manager of the New York Football Giants stepping away?
Let's see. I think he was forced into retirement. That way he didn't look bad on being fired. I'll just slide that in there. Dave Gettleman did us some good. He did us some bad. Overall, that record shows me he did more bad than good for us. I don't even know if we have cap room. From my understanding, before I walked into work on Sunday, I don't think we had enough money to pay for a 53-man roster that walked onto the field because he was just, I don't know what he was doing with the money. Let's see. What else was wrong with Dave Gettleman? He said he was improving the team. He did a little bit, not fully. Overall, Dave Gettleman the last, 4 years with the team. At first, I was excited, but then once I saw him play out, it turned into a dumpster fire. So, overall, my assessment of him, I would give him an F. And enjoy your retirement.
Kyle, before we get to you, I am just sick. I am sick to my stomach. I'm still processing this, that Dave Gettleman gets to walk out after 4 years as GM with a big old party retirement, taking pictures with his family at the game on Sunday, and Joe Judge gets fired after 2 seasons. Ridiculous that Dave Gettleman gets to walk away like that. He should have been fired. Kyle, thoughts on Dave Gettleman?
I thought you were taking that another direction. I thought you were going to say Dave Gettleman gets to walk away and retire in a nice, happy setting where he's literally won 3 games above a complete season full of wins in a matter of 4 years. But Jerry Reese got fired midway through his season after bringing 2 Super Bowls to the New York Giant organization. I thought that's what you were going to say. But Dave Gettleman, I never liked the pick. I never liked the pick at GM. I thought it was bad from the get-go because of the fact that why? Number one, it was an in-house type of hire, even though he came from the Panthers organization. He used to be associated with the Giants, number one. Number two, I knew it was going to be old school mentality, which I didn't like. I wanted a new school mentality because, as we've seen, as the last 4 years have proceeded, the old school football mind does not work in today's day and age. That's how you become the worst team in the entire NFL, hence the record of 22-59. So that doesn't work. What do I have to say about Dave Gettleman? There's really not much to say. There's not a lot of good things that he did, James. I think you were being generous with your comments. There's really, I can't even really name a good pick in which he had. You look at the free agents that he's brought in. Again, that could go with coaching too, but you could blame him there too for hiring the coaches that he's hired. Is that no free agent that they brought in has necessarily really panned out. I would say probably the best free agent at this point in time that he's brought in was probably James Bradbury. I think that was about it. And I think it's a very far gap in between that next person.
And Blake, maybe.
Blake, maybe, but he missed the entirety of the season. But based on what he could do, yeah, maybe. But with the exception of Bradbury, there's really no positivity with his time here in New York. The draft picks all didn't work out. I really don't. I don't think there's any successful draft pick. The free agents didn't pan out. And the 2 coaches that he hired in his time did not pan out at all. And I'm reading the comments right now. They're just making me laugh.
All right. Well, you know what? Let's just why wait a day?
Well, I'll tell. Tom, you go first. You go first.
All right. In the modern NFL, you can still win with an old school mentality. That's been proven by the New England Patriots. But what you need is a new school approach towards that old school mentality. You need a mix of both. And I think that's what Joe Judge was trying to instill in the Giants. Joe Judge should have never gotten fired. He should have never gotten fired. Joe Judge should have gotten a third year as head coach of the New York Football Giants, and it's not even close. And I've been pro Daniel Jones for a while. Daniel Jones has been more of a problem than Joe Judge. Daniel Jones is never available. The Giants were missing key important pieces to their team this season because Dave Gettleman decided to undo what he did in the 2020 offseason by bringing in injury-riddled players in the 2021 offseason, like Kenny Golladay, Kyle Rudolph, etc. Players that weren't needed. Now, you could argue in 2020, the NFC East was bad, and that's why the Giants were in the mix. But the Giants had a stretch there where they were in first place. Joe Judge really built this team up. He cleaned out the badness in the locker room. He instilled a good culture in this football team. The problem was fans aren't patient. It wasn't good enough. I'd rather be good for 5 to 10 years than be good right away. That's where my stance is on Joe Judge. I think he should still be head coach of the New York Giants. I think he did a really good job with this football team. The offense wasn't great. He nailed the DC hiring with Patrick Graham. It was reported by Dave Gettleman. He did not have much of a say in hiring Jason Garrett, so don't even throw that at me. And look, I'm going to go out on a limb. I know I'm in the minority here, but I support Joe Judge, and I still think he should be our head coach because basically what you're saying is the quarterback that you drafted in 2019 before Joe Judge was even head coach was destined to fail. And I get it. Dave Gettleman is gone. But you're telling me that you basically want to start over, where this team was close in 2020. This team was close. They were on the horizon. But now you're sitting here in 2021. Oh, let's fire Joe Judge because clearly he's part of the problem. Clearly, Joe Judge was not part of the problem. The problem was Joe Judge wasn't fully the entire part of the solution. That I will give you guys who wanted to fire Joe Judge. I think if Joe Judge got a competent offensive coordinator in year 3, the Giants would have been much better off. And Joe Judge, solid special teams, really good defense. The offense just wasn't there. You can't do much when the whole team is hurt. And Daniel Jones is going to fail again this year with a new head coach, a new scheme. And it's really just a shame. Rob Sale was a great hire by Joe Judge this offseason. He's going from the offensive line coach of the Giants to the offensive coordinator coach at Florida. Another comment here from Hill. I'm going to miss Joe. I know you are.
I bet you are, Hill. I bet you are.
He did beat the Cowboys in Week 17 last season. Kyle was fist pumping in his living room after hearing about Joe Judge today. And you know what? I would never do that to a head coach. I wasn't doing that when McAdoo got fired. I wasn't doing that when Pat Shurmur got fired. And I hated McAdoo that much. Realistically, what did Joe Judge do to make you want to fist pump in the air? I really want to know because I will stand on this podium and stand my ground saying that Joe Judge should not have been fired as the Giants head coach.
Tom, unfortunately, I think you're going to stand there alone, bud. I think you're standing there alone for the most part. And the biggest thing, and I've been saying it for weeks now. For weeks now, I've been saying it. For weeks. For not 1 week in the last 6 weeks, 7 weeks, have they looked like a competent – actually, since the bye week, they have not looked like a competent football team that looks to compete. And whether you want to dive into the 10, 11-minute tirade, whether you want to jump into the fact that his play calling was suspect, whether you want to dive into the fact that back-to-back years the offense was the worst offense historically maybe that the Giants have ever had. I think the last 6 games they averaged around 9 points per game. That's a football team right there in the NFL. But the thing that sealed Joe Judge's destiny, and which is the most undefensible thing I've ever seen, and as NFC East fans, as fans of the Giants, I have said it notably on the show, with the Eagles last year with Doug Peterson, I thought that was the biggest play ever to say, I don't care anymore. Let's lose the game by pulling Jalen Hurts and putting in Nate Sudfeld. You do a QB sneak on back-to-back plays on a 2nd and 11 and a 3rd and 9. That is the biggest epitome of I don't care. In a 3-0 game in the second quarter, that is the epitome of I don't care anymore. That's what sealed his destiny. Alec, you're saying why did he wait a day? I'll tell you, it's a real simple answer. The Giants organization is known to be very intuitive and wants to hear from their fan base. That's why it was reported yesterday that the Giants reported that Joe Judge was safe, but didn't say that he will remain the head coach for 2022 because they wanted to see how the fans would react. And I was going to come on the show, and the first thing I was going to say was the Giants have been bad for a long time. I've been watching football closely since I was 10 years old, 2010. I think this is the worst that they have ever been with him under head coach, with Dave Gettleman under GM, with this organization right now. They wanted to see the fans' reaction. The reason why he's gone is because what if they did yesterday? And they put it out there in the water and said, oh, he's safe. No matter what you want to say about the media, I don't think any fan was really necessarily happy to have Joe Judge back, especially after what he pulled on Sunday. Nobody could have been happy because that was a coach right there, right then and there, saying, I give up. I give up. And that's not in a situation where you're getting blown out 35-0 in the fourth quarter. That's a situation where it's 3-0 with 3 minutes left in the second quarter, and you do that. You're telling me, you're telling everybody that you rather have Jake Fromm, who has basically no NFL experience, do a QB sneak not once but twice instead of giving the ball to Barkley or Booker just to try and attempt to get the first down. Are you kidding me? Like, that is the biggest pathetic joke I think I've ever seen in a football game in my entire life of watching. And that's why he's fired. Because to be quite honest with you, if he didn't do that on Sunday, I think he'd still be the guy. But that was it. He wrote his own destiny. That was the nail that sealed the coffin. That was the final straw. And he is gone. And rightfully so.
James, sorry.
No, and that's why I'm not theoretically fist bumping. Because that is the epitome of when you talk about this isn't a clown show, well, what is that? What is that? That's a professional football team? No.
I want to get to that point before I get to James, actually. Would I have called a QB sneak on 3rd down and 9? Absolutely not. I spoke to you before the show on what Joe Judge might have been thinking about. Obviously, your offense is incompetent because of the pieces that Dave Gettleman has put together for you. So, with the offensive line playing poorly and what happened at Chicago last week, of course the Giants are going to be conservative on a 3rd and long. And with the way the game was going, he wanted to trust his defense, and he wanted the special teams to get the ball on the other side of the field. It was a field position type of game. He wanted to give the offense a shorter field. So by doing that, if the defense gets a stop, if your special teams can swing the field position or get a turnover, then you give your offense a shorter field, and then that's where you start taking the shots. You're not taking the shots inside your own 5-10 yard line, where last week on the first play of the fucking game, Mike Glennon fumbles the ball and gives up a touchdown to the Chicago Bears defense. James, I want to hear what you have to say now.
All right. Well, considering, as both of you know, I worked most weekends, I was not able to, unfortunately, watch most of the Giants' losses, which I think that saved me from a lot of gray hair, to say the least. The highlights that I've watched are a complete joke. When I saw it, they ran two, not one, but 2 QB sneaks, what Kyle just brought up. I was sitting at my desk. I was like, what the fuck are they doing in MetLife right now? They were at home, right? I think they were home.
They were at home.
I was like, what are you doing? This doesn't make logical sense. I was looking at, I was trying to figure out, well, how many seconds are there? Are there 10 seconds left and you're just trying to burn the clock to go into half, whatnot? It looked like there was still a decent amount of time left.
3 minutes left in the second quarter.
3 minutes.
A 3-0 football game.
That's a big chunk of time in football world. The fact is that you've not once but multiple times took this team all over the country and come into a stadium and only really scored 3 to 6 points off of your special teams says a lot. It really says a lot. Also, this defense. I'm surprised the defense didn't nearly strangle half the offense. Because, I'm sorry, what Rivera had on his sidelines at Washington, the players punched each other. That whole statement happened with Judge and Rivera, and
that wasn't a shot at Ron Rivera. That was a generalized statement that the media took out of fucking control and decided that it was Joe Judge's fault, that he was taking a shot at Ron Rivera. Ron Rivera even said that Joe Judge did not take a shot at him. So everybody who thinks Joe Judge took a shot at Ron Rivera, please zip it, lock it, put it in your pocket.
What do you mean? Ron Rivera responded and said you don't do that. What are you talking about?
The media twisted that line, Kyle. They twisted that line. And you could tell when they approached each other at the end of the game, before the game, everything was fine. Nothing was wrong.
I'm talking about before the game. That comment came out before the game in the press conference in Chicago. And Ron Rivera responded and said, keep your own mind to your own team. Rightfully so. Why? Because we're not a clown show. Yeah, we just give up in the second quarter. We're not a clown show.
It doesn't matter what Ron Rivera said at this point. That was not a shot at the Washington football team. Sometimes people make generalized statements. He was not calling the Washington football team a clown show organization. Not at all.
I didn't say that. But when you're telling me that
you were the one that called them a clown show organization last week. Well, maybe not directly, but for the railing falling down and the Eagles fans falling on top of Jalen Hurts.
Because you tried to blame the Philadelphia Eagles for Washington Stadium literally falling apart.
Well, which didn't make sense at all. If the fans weren't trying to clobber all over Jalen Hurts, then that wouldn't have happened. Both teams are corrupt. I'm not saying both of those teams are clown shows. I'm sorry,
when then
James.
Washington, when a photo resurfaced and you zip tie the railings back together, that shows that you.
Please finish, James. Please finish your point. I apologize.
No, you're good. The point I'm trying to make is the defense. I'm surprised didn't want to beat the shit out of our offensive line or offensive in general. I'm surprised Galladay didn't make a bigger stink like Cooper did in Dallas. I'm not getting the ball. Nobody was getting the ball on offense. I brought this up maybe 2 weeks ago to you guys. Is Booker our number one back? And both of you said no, it's Barkley. I'm sorry. I either heard from the announcers at some point that Booker had more rushing yards than Barkley did in a game or part of the season.
They finished off with the same amount of rushing yards.
So the fact is that you guys are telling me Barkley's your number one when Booker, your backup, your number two, is matching your star running back. That's a problem to begin with. All right. That falls on the head coach's side. The fact is that I'm surprised Galladay didn't come out and tell one of the 17 quarterbacks. I think we only had two, but I'm exaggerating here. One, Mr. Longneck and Mr. Who the hell other knows this guy from like State Farm, comes in and plays. Ultimately, the fact is after Jones went down, there was no backup plan. And I'm sorry, when you have no backup plan as a head coach, you're fucked. You're fucked. It's plain and simple. No backup plan. To fly to all these places and only have a field goal, and your defense is just like trying to hold it together because your offense can't stay on the field longer than 30 seconds is a joke.
Right.
I'm sorry. This falls on both the GM. It falls on the head coach. It falls on the offensive coordinator. It does not fall on the defense whatsoever or the special teams. It falls on one person. The fact is there was 2 plays of a QB sneak because he wanted to give his kicker more room in the end zone is a complete joke and waste of my time. Tom, I think that was my rant.
I just want to say the messages I've gotten over the past hour from Giants fans, from Cowboys fans, from fans of both of those teams. Keenan Justiniano, keep Judge, get rid of Jones. Nick Lombardi, it's almost not fair for these guys. And now switching coaches again will only probably affect Jones more than benefit him. Another comment from Mike Galletta. Dumb move. This is a Bucs fan. I just don't think you get rid of a guy that quick. Let him make a team with his guys, and guys were hurt again. Guys weren't hurt because of Joe Judge. Guys weren't hurt because of I mean, the Giants were bound to lose out with what was happening. I mean, I don't really think any head coach could have fixed this when you have a GM above you that's entirely incompetent. I'm not saying Joe Judge was ever Bill Parcells or that he was ever going to be Bill Parcells or Tom Coughlin. My point was that he deserved a third year to make this right with a competent offensive coordinator and to turn the offense around. And a couple more comments here. Get your popcorn ready. Hill, spicy Tom, I like it. I mean, we're all going at it tonight.
Yeah.
Noah's saying, go dogs. Go dogs.
Congrats,
Noah.
Man. I was wrong. Congrats.
The other thing I want to bring up.
James was right.
Yeah, I was. Listen to me, guys. Sometimes I'm the special guy. The one thing I do want to bring up is clearly it's the GM, the head coach, whatever. They also have to look at this medical team. They really do. because it's within year in, year out. It's all these injuries left up the wazoo. I don't understand if people are going too hard in practice. This medical team needs a complete examination itself.
That's another problem.
You know,
And it doesn't just fall on one coach.
It doesn't fall on Joe Judge. It doesn't fall on. It might fall on the gym. I don't know exactly that hierarchy, but that's also something many people aren't talking about because this injury bug has plagued us all year long, and the fact that nobody's really figured it out. You see teams, the Bucks, they're getting hurt left and right, but they're having players. Their injury team is somehow making these, working with this.
Yeah.
I don't hear the Giants doing any of that shit.
No, and here's the problem, and this is an excellent question by Andy. Tom, do you honestly think Joe Judge would be safe after next year with a new GM? Here's my argument to that. And here's the only reason why that Joe Judge could possibly be justified as getting fired. You bring in Joe Schoen, assistant VP from the Buffalo Bills, and you hire Brian Daboll as your next head coach. Both Buffalo Bills guys. Brian Daboll is an offensive mind who could possibly save Daniel Jones's career as a New York Giant. That's the direction that I would like the team to head in at this time because, look, regardless of my opinion, Kyle's opinion on this stance, neither one of us was saying Joe Judge. Even I wasn't saying Joe Judge was perfect. I like discipline. I like discipline, old school guys. That's what I like. That's where I come from. That's where I'm born and bred. Kyle prefers the new school approach. But at the end of the day, we both want the same thing. And what's ironically enough is Kyle and I think we both want the same guy to be the next head coach of the Giants and Brian Daboll. I think that's the guy we both want. And that's ironic that we both agree on that point.
Whoa, wait, hold on. Guys watching this is a rare moment that Kyle and Tom agree on something.
Listen, man, nobody wants to agree with somebody left and right. It's fun.
Brian Daboll.
I would love it. It would be a wonderful thing.
Arguing. It would stop.
It'd be a wonderful thing. It'd be a wonderful thing.
If it's
he brings back Odell and the argument starts.
If it's
that's top 3 all time, James. That's top 3.
If it's a WTF hire like a Mike Zimmer or somebody along those lines, I'm going to give Mike Zimmer a chance for 2 to 3 years to prove himself. Kyle's going to want him out the door after 8 to 10 weeks. So a Mike Zimmer hire would be much more interesting for the Giants. Now, I'm not saying that's what I want, but let's think about it, Kyle. Would that not be a typical New York Giants hire?
It would.
To get Mike Zimmer. I don't want it. Does that scare you? Look, I don't want it either.
New school. I want new school. I want winning mentality. I want actual wins underneath the belt, and I want offensive mind. And Daboll brings that all to the table. And none of the other guys do. I love Flores. I would root for him. But I think if you get Flores, I don't know if Patrick Graham stays.
Okay, but
I agree with that.
Cap room. Do you have enough room to pay these coaches?
I don't know. We're still paying everybody else, James. We're paying Judge.
Yeah,
because of Dave Gettleman, not Joe Judge.
No, I know that.
Look, I think Joe Judge was fired not because of Joe Judge. I'm going to be honest. I don't think Joe Judge got fired because of Joe Judge. Why do you think the Giants waited a day? It wasn't because of the reaction from the fans. Some media person said, "Oh, Joe Judge was cleaning his desk," and then assumed he was getting fired. And then somebody had said the same thing. Joe Judge is safe because he met with John Mara and then was going to meet with the team. That's what happened. They weren't waiting for guys like Talking Giants and License Plate Guy to come out and give their reactions and value their opinion and then throw that into consideration.
The dude had 3 meetings with the owners in less than 24 hours. It's because they're trying to get a grasp for what the team feels. They're trying to get a grasp for what the fan base feels, and they don't even know what they feel.
Before I forget my point, I think Joe Judge was fired because the Giants wanted the team to move in a different direction. They wanted to clean house with the head coach and GM, and they wanted to move in a different direction. Do I respect the Giants' decision to fire Joe Judge? Yes. Do I support the decision? Yes. Do I agree with the decision? Absolutely not. That's the bottom line. At the end of the day, as a professional media person, you got to respect your organization's decision. I do not agree with it one bit. Joe Judge, in my opinion, should still be head coach of the Giants. And if Jeff Fisher is available, I'll have a stroke. If Jim Harbaugh becomes the next coach of the Giants, I'll have a double stroke.
Bottom line is this:
no Doug Peterson, no Jim Harbaugh, no Jeff Fisher.
I think the Giants are smarter than that.
The Giants organization did everything in their possible power to keep Joe Judge as the head coach, even through all the banter for weeks. But when you do what he did, and he gave up on his team in the football field, that was it. That was it. He gave up on his team on live television. After saying we're going to be a tough team that competes, you gave up on live television.
I don't think he gave up.
We're going to disagree with that.
He gave up.
But that's the reason why. And on top of the fact, again, we keep on talking about, why did it take a day? It took a day because on top of the fan base, Mara didn't want to get rid of him. He didn't want to get rid of him. But you know how hard it is to not get rid of a person when you were the owner of the Giants, part owner, and not the parking lot was empty at MetLife in the last game of the season. And then the loyal fans that paid their hard-earned money to watch a team that doesn't even put up 10 points in a football game watches your coach literally saying a 3-0 game, I don't care anymore. That's what he did.
Well, the tickets were like
we're blaming this all on Joe Judge, but not once have we mentioned Freddie Kitchens. Not once have we mentioned
because you don't. That's not an offensive. That's not an interim offensive coordinator call. That comes straight from the top.
No.
I understand that. I'm not disagreeing with you there. But regardless, Joe Judge reminded me a lot of Tom Coughlin, and that's why I like the guy. I still think he could have been Tom Coughlin if the Giants gave him that chance. I think Joe Judge may have become a head coach a little bit too soon. I still think there's potential for him to be a head coach again. I really do. I don't care what anyone says about that. I think there is potential. Does he wind up back in New England? I don't know, but I love Joe Judge. I will always be on the Joe Judge fan train. Once a Giant, always a Giant. He didn't exit like Shermer. He didn't exit like McAdoof. He exited like a New York football Giant. Joe Judge, once a Giant, always a Giant. I love Joe Judge as a head coach. Thank you very much for these past 2 years, bringing us 2 seasons
of misery.
Stop.
The one thing
this never happens. Holy shit! What a revelation. Sorry, James. Go ahead. Get to your point.
The one thing I want to say before we wrap this up, if we are going to wrap this up, because we could go on for hours with this. Is
whole show.
We could do a whole show. Ultimately, what my watching of these games have been is if Daniel Jones didn't get injured, we would be talking in a different spot.
Joe Judge would still be the head coach of the team.
He would still.
Yes, he would.
Kyle, we would have more than 4 wins.
Yes, he would.
You're right.
Yes,
we would have
more than 4 wins.
We would have.
Joe Judge would still be the head coach of this football team if Daniel Jones was
Dave Gettleman would be gone.
Yes.
No.
Thank you.
If Daniel Jones, I'm telling you this: if Daniel Jones didn't get hurt, what I'm saying is this: if Daniel Jones didn't get hurt and we finished off 6-11, which was going to happen, don't even argue it, then Daniel Jones would be gone, and Dave Gettleman would be gone.
Maybe not Joe Judge. We lost to Washington by a field goal. I mean, we almost beat the Kansas City Chiefs this season. What about week 3 against the Atlanta Falcons when the defense was playing like shit because they adjusted to a new defensive scheme from the zone to the press man?
I'm so happy you brought that up, but we can't continue like this. We got a guest on. But the Atlanta Falcons going into that week, they let up 80 points in 2 weeks. The Giants struggled to score 14. So there's your
The one
argument.
point I was trying to bring up
is sides were at fault, Kyle. The defense was at fault that week as well. You can't
2 pieces of the puzzle.
The defense a free ride.
Listen, you guys know my plea. 2 pieces of the puzzle have been removed. It's just the last one, and it's more than likely going to happen whether you admit it or not.
Stop.
Is that Daniel Jones is not going to be the quarterback after next
Well,
year.
you know what? Daniel Jones is still here. He is our quarterback. There's no quarterback that's going to come in this year that would be better suited for this team than Daniel Jones, and you know that. The draft quarterbacks stink. There's 1 or 2 that's going to be good and make a nice career out of that themselves. You can't tell me Andy Dalton, Mitch Trubisky, Jacoby Brissett could possibly overtake Daniel Jones.
They give you something different.
Listen,
something different.
The only thing
how are they better than Daniel Jones?
They're not.
That's what
Daniel
I
Jones.
know.
Daniel, do you understand? Because you guys look at him on a pedestal. Daniel Jones's bar is so low with 10 touchdowns in a season that
low.
anything above that is improvement.
No, but we
Then
also
why did he
need
throw 24 touchdowns in Pat Shermer's scheme as a rookie?
Okay, because you're forgetting the most important part, and then James, go to you. I love that you mention that all the time because you always forget to mention the most important part.
What is the most
12
important part?
The 12 interceptions and the 18 fumbles in that season. So as much as you thought he was helping you, he was killing you and keeping you out of football games.
The only
That's the
thing,
most important part.
the last two things I'm going to bring up, and we'll probably need to move on, is you saw an improvement with this team. Daniel Jones behind center. Two, we need a much more competent backup than whoever from the State Farm ads. I'm sorry, like
Get Gardner Minshew. That guy can play.
You need to have somebody to back up your quarterback, and that's the end of my rant time. I'm sure you want to move on.
We're just going to roll through these comments and bring up Dom to talk about the Steelers. Dabble turned down better jobs than the Giants last year. No way he leaves Josh Allen for Daniel Jones. If Joe Schoen becomes GM, I think Dabble will seriously consider this job. The offensive coach looks great now. Will look a lot less good going from Josh Allen to Daniel Jones. Flores had back-to-back winning seasons with Tua at quarterback. Why not think about Byron Leftwich? I don't know.
I like that too.
I haven't really dove much into him. Yeah, but that's not a Giants hire.
I like that. I like that coach a lot. The only reason why I'm hesitant is because of the fact that, again, he had Tom Brady. While with Dabble, we saw him develop a quarterback in Buffalo, and that's what the Giants need. If you guys really want Daniel Jones, they need a guy that can develop a quarterback.